Hi guys, welcome back to Cyber Launch. As always, I'm Phil Wilkinson, and in this video I just wanted to go over a question that I'd seen crop up lately, which was how do you go about testing your chatbots before deployment? Obviously this is a really great question and something that you should definitely be doing to ensure that the accuracy of the responses that it's giving, and to make sure that it's not producing any errors that we don't really want to see. There was a case recently where I believe a chatbot sold a car for around $1, but the car was worth like 40 grand. So yeah, obviously we want to make sure those kind of things aren't happening. As always, remember with any testing that it is an iterative process, so it should be something that you consistently do even after deployment, and just continuously get people involved to help find any errors, any issues that might crop up, and obviously cybersecurity is a really big one. So let's jump into. As always, if you wouldn't mind subscribing to the channel, hitting the like button and the notification bell to make sure that you're always getting updated with my videos. There is links in the description below, which I've put together a checklist and guide, which will be more comprehensive than the video, just as a something that you can go over as and when you're doing your own testing. It has got a checklist, like cheat sheet that you can go through, and also some example input scripts that you can start moving around and changing to actually test your own chatbots as well, to make sure that the output that you get in is what you want. So you'll find that in the description below. So step one, you want to go through intent recognition. So if you're not familiar with what intents means, that's where a user puts in something into the chat request, and we recognize it as a common sort of question, but it's maybe not necessarily always going to be written in the same way. So for example, a user might say, I want to book a call, but they're not always going to use it like that because we don't all talk in the same way. So you might have someone say book a call, you might have someone say I want to phone someone, you might have someone else say can I get a call back, something like that. So it's just having a good understanding of how many different ways somebody might ask for booking a call. And making sure that your chatbot handles it in the right way. So regardless of what the user is putting in, we understand what they're trying to ask and pointing them to the right direction, rather than going, I don't understand what you're asking. So step two, entity extraction. So this is more about ensuring that the chatbot understands what variables, I guess, are being put into it. So whether it's a date, a name, a time, a phone number, an email address, it understands what that is and handles it accordingly. Step three, dialogue management. This is just all about making sure that the chatbot understands the context and maintains it going forward. Voice flow, I believe, has or a sort of memory kind of mode on it, so it will remember the last three inputs. I think so it should maintain the conversation fairly well, but this is more just like, obviously if you're talking about something and the next message it doesn't understand what you asked previously because you've maintained it in a normal conversational flow, it's going to get frustrating for a user to have to keep re-explaining what they're talking about. So just make sure that we're maintaining that context. Step four is fallback handling. So fallback handling is how your chatbot's going to deal with unknown responses. So if we introduce nonsensical or out of scope queries into what the chatbot is doing, it's how helpful it's going to be with getting us back on track. So whether that's a case of, somebody's put in there a misspelling, it's rather than it just turning around and going, I don't know what you mean, it's can it handle some misspellings and understand what the misspelling should be, or if it is complete nonsense, it'll just how it puts us back on track rather than just completely breaking. Number five is integration testing. So if you do have any external integrations into a database or an API, maybe you've got a Zapier or a Make workflow, it's just making sure that they actually work. So this is simulating it in real time as well. So rather than you just doing it as a test, actually, test it with somebody who's not familiar with your chatbot is always a good way to do it. So can they go on there, book an appointment, and does that appointment come through to you so you can actually see it. Number 6 is error handling. So obviously this is pretty straightforward, what to do when an error occurs. Obviously these are critical for building trust within your chatbot, because the last thing we want is a load of nonsense error information being presented to the user. They think that the chatbot's a complete waste of time and broken, and ends up leaving the site without actually continuing with our services. So the best way to go about this is, obviously, first of all, if there is an error, we don't need to present it to the user. We just need to tell them, sorry, that didn't work, or sorry, I don't understand, that sort of stuff. And then obviously we also need to handle the errors in making sure that we see them as the admin. So whether that's sending an email or a report, or just checking, obviously, to see if there's any issues. But also, if there is an error, maybe following it up with the user. So if we can try and get them to sort of say, yes, okay, we appreciate there was an error, but what we'll do is we'll get you in touch with a person, and they should be able to handle your query for you. Lastly then, cybersecurity. So obviously this is a huge one and goes well more than the scope of what we can talk about here and in the documentation as well. If you're not sure about cybersecurity and you want to be really safe, obviously, especially if you're using anything like financial transaction stuff, then do bear in mind it's probably worth getting a cybersecurity expert in just to test and check through what it is you're doing to make sure that you are safe, and obviously making sure that your customers' data is safe as well. So the main things that we can do against it is obviously check against any potential hacks like SQL injections and cross-site scripting. So this is going to be just simple stuff like, checking that the escape characters aren't, being used, or validating user input and output as well. So making sure that whatever comes back from ChatGPT isn't, malicious, or doing the things like we said earlier, where we're going to end up selling a really expensive high ticket item for like $1 because we've been manipulated, or our chatbot's been manipulated into doing so. And that pretty much wraps up the overall steps that I would take in testing a chatbot before deployment. But also bear in mind that this 7-step process is something that you should always continue after deployment and moving forward, to ensure that it always stays up to date, it isn't falling behind, we haven't overlooked any errors, and this process shouldn't be just done by one person, because obviously as the user, or as the admin of the chatbot, we're going to understand the ins and outs of it, how it works, all that sort of stuff. So the best way to get it tested thoroughly is to use actual users or testers to test it. There is also automated testing software that you can use as well, but just continue with this iterative process of ensuring that it is fully working as intended and not doing anything that we don't expect it or want it to do. But as always, please hit like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and I say all the documentation is below to help you go through all these steps. And if you've got any comments or queries, please feel to leave them below, or reach out to me through Cyber Launch or Class AI Limited. See you at the next one, guys.